All right, announcement before the episode begins, and this is pretty serious. The Broncos game has officially been moved to Monday night. The Broncos-Patriots will play in the early slot of Monday night, and I bring this up because a running joke through the whole episode is how I don't know when the fuck the game's going to be played, and now we know when the game's going to be played, and that was determined while I was shooting this episode. So forgive the redundancy. Welcome to That's Good Broncos. I'm Brandon. If you like this shirt, go to DNVR Locker and use my code PERNA to get a discount on their merch. PERNA. That's all you have to live for right now. This game's not exciting anybody. We have an extraordinarily underwhelming matchup to discuss this week. It's the starless Broncos versus the starless Patriots. There are so few stars in this game that Neil deGrasse Tyson has classified it as a black hole on the Sunday or Monday night schedule. The Patriots, even without Cam Newton, are currently favored by 11.5 points. That seems pretty high. High enough to actually curse the Patriots into a loss. So let's look at the matchup, talk some trash, and make a prediction for this shit show of a game. Whew. That's good, Broncos. This episode is brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code DNVR when you sign up to America's top-rated sportsbook app and get up to $1,000 of a bonus. And my advice right now, Broncos fans, take advantage of those massively favorable 11 points they're giving to the Broncos. I have no idea who thinks the Patriots without Cam and their best defensive player in Stephon Gilmore will throttle the Broncos, which is why you should look into that on DraftKings with the offer code DNVR when you sign up. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DNVR when you sign up to get up to $1,000 for a one-time sign-up bonus. This is a limited time offer, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, must be 21 years or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. This is the first time the Broncos are playing against a non-Tom Brady-led Patriots team in Foxborough since Matt Castle fucked us up good in 2008. And the first time they're playing a Patriots team where Brady isn't even on the roster since 1999, when Drew Bledsoe was their starting QB. Brady was still at Michigan, just a twinkle in the brown eye of Patriots fans everywhere. Let's take a look at the quarterbacks, because we don't even know who will be starting at quarterback for the Patriots at this time, or the Broncos really at this time. But after watching both of the guys who started for the Patriots last week against the Chiefs, I can assure you neither of them look like particularly good options. Cam Newton is still out until he can produce a couple negative COVID tests. There's a chance he plays. The Broncos are playing like he's going to play, but the options really are Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. I've decided to create my famous pros and cons list for the two Patriots quarterbacks to decide which one they should start, since God knows Bill Belichick would rather let Cam Newton cough in his mouth than tell us anything about the game plan. Let's start with Brian Hoyer. Boy, would I like to be a fly on the head of Mike Pence's head on a wall to listen to Bill Belichick point out all of the things Brian Hoyer did wrong last week. I didn't word that well. Okay, pro. Hoyer. He's clearly the more experienced option for the Patriots. Con. Most of that is bad experience. Pro. Unencumbered by hair. Con. I bet it feels weird wearing a helmet with no hair. Pro. Once led the Texans to the playoffs. Con. Let the Chiefs get their first playoff win since the 90s by completing 44.1% of his passes and throwing 4 interceptions in what has to be one of the worst all-time quarterback playoff performances. Now we'll do pros and cons for Jarrett Stidham. Pro. He was the de facto starter until they signed Cam Newton. Con. If they actually thought he was good, they would have fucking started him last Monday. Pro, led the Patriots on their only touchdown drive last week. Con, he only threw one pass on that drive. Pro, we can get a lot of irony mileage out of this photo if he keeps sucking. He has got all of the confidence of Tom Brady with none of the wins. King Stidham. Con, Stidham sounds like a pig that has a venereal disease. Okay, as for the Broncos quarterback, I think Brett Rypien will start, and I think he did more good than he did bad against the Jets. The track record isn't great for young quarterbacks, though, against a Belichick defense. The fact that they held down the Chiefs for 3 quarters doesn't exactly bode well for Rypien's chances, but I don't think the Broncos will have to put up more than 20 points to get a victory. One thing the Broncos have done better than almost any other team in the league the last couple years is not put up more than 20 points. So, advantage Broncos. Basically, Rypien just has to play exactly like he did last week without the 3 nearly crippling interceptions, and with Phillip Lindsay returning, maybe the running back game and quick passing game to running backs can be the thing that Brett leans on. Now, Drew Lock did return to practice this week. There's a chance he could start, depends on how you interpret James Palmer's cryptic tweets, but I don't think he will. But just in case Drew plays, I want to give him some pros and cons. Con, he did hurt his throwing shoulder. Pro, unlike Cam Newton, he didn't injure any of his own teammates. All right, Broncos offense versus Patriots defense. The same Patriots defense that did a good job against the Chiefs is playing without opt-outs Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung, and now is going to be without last year's Defensive Player of the Year in Stephon Gilmore, who upon recovery will be suspended further for endangering Patrick Mahomes. Now, Gilmore and Cam Newton apparently had dinner on Friday night before it was revealed that Cam had tested positive for COVID. If Patrick Mahomes does end up getting COVID, and to be clear, I hope he does not, this will go down as the most costly dinner since I wasted an hour and 51 minutes watching My Dinner with Andre. Now, their defense has only really broken down in one game, and that was against the Seahawks, against Russell Wilson at the height of his cooking powers. It should also be noted Patriots defensive tackle Bill Murray is on the reserve COVID list, who should have been signed by the Jets to fix their ghost problem. Oh, that one's all right. The Patriots and the Broncos are very similar right now. Both of their QBs are out. They don't have good options behind them. Both teams are missing a bunch of key guys and will be relying on their defense to keep them in the game, while praying their backup quarterback doesn't do something stupid every single time they're on the field. That said, I am high on Brett Rypien. Not to shit on Brett Rypien. Denver definitely has more dynamic skill players on offense, but even that advantage is dwindling with the uncertainty of Noah Fant and KJ Hamler with their injuries. So here's to hoping we see a big game from Jake Butt, and then also Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon on the field at the same time, making the defense have to guess which guy will score on them. I want to see Pat Shurmur use his running backs to kill the Patriots like they've done to other people for so long in the passing game. Now, it feels like Jerry Jeudy could be hitting a rhythm now after his spectacular touchdown against the Jets, and Tim Patrick is basically playing like Cortland Sutton in Sutton's absence, scoring a touchdown in the last 2 Broncos games. Those 2 guys have accounted for the only 3 touchdowns by the Broncos wide receivers so far this season. The question is, who will the Patriots move to the outside without Stephon Gilmore? The Patriots don't have any other corners 6 feet or taller, so it might be a good idea to target Big Tim Patrick early and often. At least I don't think any of them are. Wikipedia tells me J.C. Jackson is 5'11", but the Patriots website lists him at 6'1", the classic Tinder strategy. And it is working for J.C. Patriots offense versus Broncos defense. Someone that's very quietly made an impact on the Patriots offense is Damiere Byrd, or Damari Byard, or Demarie Byard, who they acquired this season from the Cardinals. But outside of him and Julian Edelman, there's not a lot of production coming from the wide receivers or the tight ends. Their most productive tight end has been Ryan Izzo, who's caught 3 passes all year. Damian Harris had a quiet, almost silent 100 yards last week against Kansas City. I'm guessing he's the best running back to wear number 37 since Shaun Alexander. Someone also edited his Wikipedia page to say he averages more yards per start than the entire Giants franchise. Sounds like the work of an angry Patriots fan to me who can't get over those Super Bowl losses. If it looked like Vic Fangio was blitzing more the last 2 weeks, no, it was not your cataracts acting up. He has been, and Jeffrey Essery pointed out a great stat on Twitter for the osteoporosis bus driver. Alexander Johnson has been brought on a blitz 44 times this year, 22 times on Thursday night. Huge increase considering he was only used to blitz 50 times last year. So please, let the Patriots start Brian Hoyer. The Patriots' offensive line isn't quite as sound as we're used to seeing. I think they're pretty good, but I am certain Johnson, Chubb, Shelby, Malik Reed, and Mike Purcell, if he plays, can find ways to sack Brian Hoyer when he's hitting his 23rd or 24th pat on the football. He pats that thing like he's getting a baby to fall asleep in his arms. That said, the Patriots' line is playing a little bit better than Denver's, but that's when Cam is under center. Center James Ferentz, who you might remember as a former Denver Bronco. God, I hope he doesn't reveal the secrets to Bill Belichick about stopping Peyton Manning. If, for some reason, the pass rush is stagnant, I'm starting to like the Broncos secondary with the young corners playing a little bit better every week. New England basically has 4 starting caliber corners in their secondary between McCourty, Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, and Jonathan Joseph. Denver just might have that same thing as well once they get A.J. Boye back. Probably next week. So then you have Boye, Callahan, Bosby, who was a big difference maker against the Jets, and Michael O.J. Moutier. O.J., outside of the Steelers game and those 2 dropped interceptions week 1 and week 2, has been pretty damn good since. So credit Fangio for sticking with the young guy now because I think it's going to pay huge dividends later, maybe this season, if not next year definitely, when the Broncos resurrect all of their Pro Bowlers from IR. If Cam Newton is playing, I would be worried, but I think Denver's secondary can lock down Julian KY Jellyhands Edelman, N'Keal Harry, and whichever running back is deployed as the receiver, knowing they don't have to defend a dual threat quarterback. Hell, knowing they don't even have to defend a single threat quarterback. Okay, and before my final prediction, we have X Factors. One of the big matchups we'll be keeping an eye on is Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell versus James White and Rex Burkhead. If you can take away the short throws to the running backs, I'll take my chances with either Hoyer or Stidham throwing the ball downfield. Another X factor, the Patriots tight ends. They don't use them, but they should because their names are a lot of fun to say. You've got Izzo and Asiasi. Izzo and Asiasi. My intangibles radar is beeping like a cool kid's pager in the 90s. Another X factor, politics, baby. If Donald Trump can return to the Oval Office 6 days after getting COVID, don't be surprised if Bill Belichick finds a way to get Cam Newton back on the field 10 days after getting COVID. Another X factor, the Gooch Slayer Brandon McManus, who has been nearly perfect this season, deadly from over 50 yards, coming off an AFC Special Teams Player of the Month award, and could be the Broncos' highest scoring player in this game. Final prediction, the Broncos win 3-2. This is the hardest prediction I have ever had to make because we don't know for sure when the hell the game will be played, who's going to be playing quarterback for either team, or anything. We know nothing. So that's a guess. I mean, it is every week, but this week, big guess. Thanks for watching That's Good Broncos. Please subscribe here on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe to the That's Good Broncos podcast.